if you don't lead by examples, how do you expect others to follow? And it was just something that stuck with me. I had this motto at work, and I brought it in when I joined McDowell Affleck 19 years ago, which is what you walk past, you accept. So you walk past a bad behaviour and don't do anything about it, you're accepting that behaviour. I listen to a lot of influential people, and Jack Daly is someone I went to many years ago, and he said, it doesn't matter if the person's the top salesperson, don't be afraid to fire them if they're the wrong person. And I recently listened to Gary Vee, who pretty much mimicked that, and he said, I don't care if it's a top effing salesman.
I don't give a if it's your number one salesperson, your best developer, or your co-founder. Cancer spreads.
Get rid of them if they're a toxic person. And I can tell you there's not one person in our business today that I'd want to get rid of.
One of our responsibilities is to protect the business and our good people. And if you get one person who is misaligned, at some point, the good people in our business start having to pick up work from this other person.
There's worse than that. They leave. I listened to Jack Daly, and Jack Daly said, hire slow, fire fast, because cancer spreads.
I've always loved my conversations with you because if I had to label you, amongst many things, I'd say, no, Stephen's a practitioner. It's not intellectual. I've seen you over decades build teams of people, and what I really love about how you do business is you do understand your key drivers and your numbers.
Yep.
Because I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
You can hire the best people on the planet, inspire them, do all the things people say you should do, some of which I disagree with. But if your financial model doesn't support the business, you're going to be dead in the water anyway.
Yeah, there's a very large building just around the corner here where a company had $1.2 billion worth of work and went out of business because their cash flow model wasn't working, and they hired people from all around the world and got the best and the brightest, and it should have been an amazing business, but cash is king. If you don't have cash to pay those bills as and when they fall due, you usually fall over very quickly. And yeah, it's great having a great name and a great brand, and something we're working on now. But if you don't have the right people, you're never going to get work in the door. But if you don't have cash, you can't hire the right people to get work in the door, and more importantly, out to the quality the clients want and need. Yeah.
So I didn't want to focus on finances because I do that regularly, but it's so important in a conversation about people to bring up cash.
Yeah.
Because I hear a lot of conversations where they discuss people and the importance of people, and what's missing in that is the cash.
Yep.
And what's missing in that, which I want to talk to you about also, is accountability.
Yep.
And accountability also linked to cash.
Yep.
And where that sits, because some people don't understand cash, and that's okay, and others need to understand cash, otherwise it's not okay.
Yeah. I find in business generally, people talk about sales. Sales is like that big company. They sold lots, but it's revenue. You can have $1.2 billion on the books, but if you can't get your work out the door and create invoices that you've worked hard with your client to understand their buying criteria and understand that they're 14 days or 30 days or 45, and get the best result for the company, and you don't get that cash in, you won't have a business. And there is a direct correlation with good project managers understand communication, but somewhere in the middle of those three communications is cash. Get the invoice out and get it paid. And I find even in our business, we got some people are fantastic at the follow up, the close out, and making sure invoices get paid. Others just, engineers tremble at customer service sometimes. And we had a strategic planning day yesterday, and we talked about sales and revenue. We talked about, we call them key accounts. So we have key account managers and then a second underneath them. And it's taking some engineers quite some time to get their head around that people skill that they've got to build, because they got it. they use it in a different way. And when you're using something in a different way, it scares you. I'm doing a podcast, so I never thought I'd do. People see me as an outgoing person. I am. My biggest fear is public speaking, where I know no one. And that's what I'm doing here today.
Why is that, by the way? I know that's a tangent, but...
I don't know. I'm very good. I've been an MC at a wedding about 7 or 8 times. I talk in front of the team, both at Chubb when I was there for 16 years and now at MAD3 Engineering for 19 years. Talk in front of the team, no problems at all. It doesn't matter if there's 50 people in the room or families there. But actually standing on a stage in front of people you don't know, that is my worst fear. Absolute worst fear.
Wow. How about that?
No one would ever pick it. And some of the staff at work were joking yesterday, you're going to have fun doing your podcast. I said, fun isn't a word I'd use. I'm going to enjoy the conversation with you because we've had lots of conversations over the years. And that's all I'm focused on is that rather than the fear itself. Yeah. And I think it's important. But going back to the people, yes, there is distinctively 2 groups of people. And I have that in my own relationship. My wife has no idea about balancing the books or a budget or planning for a holiday and what expenses really go into it. She's the one who gets there and packs her bags the night before, and I've packed them 2 weeks ago, and I've made sure we've got the money on the right cards, and if that card falls over, then we've got money over here. We've got the insurances, we've got everything done, and that's what makes a relationship work. And there's no different in the workplace. There's people that focus on cash. I'm not 100% laser-like on the cash. When cash gets a bit tighter, I tune into that. But I let people do their jobs. And my 2 admin girls are fantastic at debt collection. And it's because the project managers have done the education stuff and agreed to terms with the clients. That makes it so much easier.
Yeah. Conversations up front.
Yeah.
It's a communication thing, isn't it?
And that's a skill. You hire... I listen to a lot of influential people, and Jack Daly is someone I went to with tech with Michael and Jurian many years ago, and he said, it doesn't matter if the person's the top salesperson, don't be afraid to fire them if they're the wrong person. And I recently listened to Gary Vee, who pretty much mimicked that, and he said, I don't care if it's a top effing salesman, get rid of them if they're a toxic person. And I can tell you there's not one person in our business today that I'd want to get rid of. There's no toxicity in our business. In fact, we always say we're a family, but we are a family. And for the last 18 months, we've had no turnover, which is very rare in the engineering space, in my field. And there's lots of different reasons for that. But I think at the centre of it, they trust what we're doing. We encourage and support them to do their best. I feel empowered when they go out to make decisions. We talked about that again yesterday as something that potentially makes us a little bit different. And we do interesting stuff. It's not just the same old, we'll knock up a design for a building or a house. It's, we range from small land development projects to the most iconic job we're doing at the moment is Snowy 2.0 outside of Canberra.
Cool.
So for a small company sitting in Rivervale in Western Australia, that's an amazing achievement.
Can we talk about team building?
Yep.
I know you've spent decades building teams.
Yep.
I don't know how you see it. I'd call it one of your key strengths.
So?
And people respect you for it. I've witnessed it personally. And the results happen over time.
I'll take you back on my journey about a long while ago. I'm 60 in a month's time. About 25 years ago, you look back in your life and you think of who's the people who have been true leaders. And I had a gentleman who's retired and he's in WA now, Ken Duncan, and he was the general manager. And we had a really bad Thursday and Friday, and we all had to come in on Saturday and Sunday to do what we needed to do. And he came in on those 2 days as the general manager and helped us. And I asked him the question on Sunday, why did you do this? You're the general manager. He said, if you don't lead by examples, how do you expect others to follow? And it was just something that stuck with me. And when I was in the the management roles, I finally got to the general manager in Canberra with Chubb. They brought out a program called Walk, Talk, Care, Seek. And it was really about if there's an incident on a site, we've got to walk the site and find out what went wrong. And we've got to find out the information. We've got to care for the person who got injured, potentially. And it became me more than just safety. It became me that I made the operations team go out at least once a month to every site at night where they never saw anyone. And I still remember walking to people at 10:30 at night at Old Parliament House, and he said, "Who are you? Why are you on site?" And I said, "I'm the general manager." And he was astonished that the general manager bothered to come out at 10:30 at night to come and meet him. And it became that, for me, an important part of who I am is I don't have the best office in the building. In fact, my wife tells me I have the worst office. I don't have a car park. Other people have car parks. I park on the street. I think, from my perspective, I give to others what I'd want to be given to me. And to me, that's true leadership. And I think if I talk to the majority of the staff, and I'm not going to say every ex-staff member loves me, I'm still friends with a lot of my people that I work with in Canberra, and a lot of people that used to work at McDowell Affleck. And it's because I treat them with respect. And I sometimes had to make the hard decision, and sometimes you do put people aside with those decisions. But at the centre of it was people are, in our business, IP. People are your asset. We don't sell widgets. We don't sell machinery. We sell time. And if we treat our staff poorly and they leave, too much intellectual property walks out the door. So I know that's an asset. That's as important as cash.
Yep.
So I think that's probably one of my greatest assets, is that I do love being the first person in the building. So I get there at 6:25. I've recently had an employee beaten me, so I'm determined to get there a little bit earlier.
You're not competitive at all.
No. I set the coffee machine up. I make sure the air conditions are on, and everything's ready for when the staff get there. They don't have to waste their time, even to the point of filling the kettles up and making sure it's boiled and the filtered water's in the fridge. And I think at the end of the day, is it my job as the CEO? No. But if I'm doing it, then other people are doing it. So I have this motto at work, and I brought it in when I joined McDowell Affleck 19 years ago, which is what you walk past, you accept. So you walk past a bad behaviour and don't do anything about it, you're accepting that behaviour. So we have that, whether that's something on the ground, pick it up, put it away. Whether it's an empty kettle, fill it up. If the coffee machine's full, don't walk away. You spill the coffee, don't walk away. Clean it up. And if I'm not doing that, I feel, then how can I hold others accountable for what their actions are?
So you set the standard, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's the most important thing about accountability, is setting a standard and pulling people up when they don't meet that standard. That's the really thing that people miss, is they get straight to the second one. You got to pat them on the back when they do a good job. So we have an employee of the month, and we pat people on the back for the good stuff. We also take the mickey out of them, a thing called a Snoopy Award, and I won it last month. I broke someone's coffee cup, but I got caught trying to sticky tape, and yeah, he was my ops manager. So I got the Snoopy Award, and they get to spin the wheel, and there's overnight accommodation. Burswood right down to, you need to put on a barbecue for everyone, and it's about that team building and that morale. And it is funny, you get people in there practicing spinning the wheel to try and win the overnight accommodation. And all those people then go in the pool for the Employee of the Year, which when I joined the company, Gary Affleck employed me, and 12 months later, unfortunately, passed away at 49. And we have the Gary Affleck Employee of the Year. That's been going since 2008, I'm going to say. I've been lucky enough to win it twice, as voted by the employees. Very humble. And a few people have won it twice, but ours won it 3 times, so I'm still trying to win it for the 3rd time.
Love it. And fun's important, isn't it?
Yeah.
We all package fun differently.
Yeah.
In our office, Similarly to you, I believe if you're doing great work, I'll just tell you.
Yeah.
I don't need to wait for a ceremony. We don't do prizes. That's just not our thing.
Yeah.
But you'll know immediately. But I will walk the talk. So the standard's there and everyone knows it because we talk about it, we're open.
Yeah.
I reinforce to my guys, you're all here for a reason and I value you. What I value even more is that you push back and you speak your mind. No one in our organisation gets punished for speaking your mind.
Got to feel safe.
Yeah.
Simon Sinek.
Yeah. So
I have a thing that I've nominated my operations manager because he is my loyal no man. He will literally say no to 50% of the stuff I'll bring up to ways in which we can improve the business. And that's good because that actually challenges me to think about things differently, but also if I can convince him that the idea, although it might be not engineered proof, as engineers like to call it, and he's an engineer, it's actually not a bad idea because here's the net benefit. So yesterday I shocked the room when I said, we were talking about what is our passion. And I'm in a room full of engineers and I said, but engineers aren't passionate. The response I got was what I wanted, which was a bit of an uproar and a bit of pushback, but then they all explain what their true passion. I raised that pressure to get on the table what they really were passionate about. And I believe we got some really good options to go off and then start working out, drilling down what really is our passion. Therefore, what is our niche in the business? What do we stand for? You know, engineering a better community by design for the benefit of our clients and staff is a great catchphrase, but does it really capture who MAD3 are? I mean, you've only got to pick the name, MAD3. We've had clients hate the name.
really, I reckon it was cool.
Yeah, but they said it's memorable. I said, well, isn't that the goal? I mean, we all know some of those iconic names in the marketplace, and they all have a cool catchphrase. We just have a cool name. And it's a combination of McDowell Athlete, when we merged 2 years ago, with Deakin Engineers. And unfortunately, MADE was taken, so we went MAD with the 3. And the 3 represents our core values. And again, that goes back to that leader of men and women, there's lots of women in our business, is that we hold each other accountable for those 3 R's. And if we don't do them, I expect people to pull me up. If I said I'll do something to this quality and it's not done, Michael pulled me up the other day, as you know, Michael as well. Yep. And it's good having people hold you to account because then that's when you get the best results.
What are your 3 R's?
Results, reliable, responsive. So we're quite unique in the engineering space where literally someone can ring us, and I give an example to people, and people, believe it or not, when PCEC first launched, they put this big balloon up on the roof and attached it to some lugs that were sitting up on the roof. Well, 2 of them went, and the next thing you know, they were worried about this thing floating off and hitting a building or a plane or something else. And so they rung all the engineering companies within 40 metres of them, 100 metres, 500 metres. None of them could come to site. We jumped in the car. They rang us, and Duncan jumped in the car and went to site, told them what they could do, stayed up on the roof. They did it, and success, no problems. Yeah, that's the sort of response we're talking about. If someone wants us to drop everything and get there, snowy, we need someone on site tomorrow. Done. Get on a plane, drive from Canberra down to site in Cooma, and we get the job done. And we do that a lot where we're really quite small and nimble, but that adds to our responsiveness. And again, we hold each other account. When we take too long to reply to a client's email or a client request or whatever, that's really thing. And results are, every engineer will go, that I've found, and I'm not an engineer, they'll go about things a little bit differently, but they come out with the right result. But sometimes the right result's not a practical result. An example of that, if it costs you $200 a cube to take out rock in the hills to get a 10-degree slope, but it costs you $20 a cube to fill it, and you do some cut and fill, which one's cheaper? And if it's over 5 or 10 Ks, the numbers are huge. So designing it that you're going to cut it and fill it only, no import, it works. But it might cost you 5 times the price of actually doing some cut, fill and import. And that's sort of the practical side of our business, which is that results. We want the right economic result for the client and even timing. Getting it to market when it's spring, when a brand new lot, when it's shoots of grass coming up, compared to summer where it's a desert. And they're really important. So we buy into that with our clients and get them to understand. We get to understand what they need, not what they want. And we deliver that need.
Wonderful. I'm going to come back to teams again.
Yeah.
There's such a rich conversation.
Yeah.
Because it's all interlinked.
Yep.
You can't talk about building teams without talking about every other facet of the business because it's the fabric. How did you build your team at McDowell, Affleck, and then MAD3? How do you think about building a team? Let's start there.
All right, first and foremost, you hire for who they are and their behaviours and traits. That's the first tick. And usually when it's an engineer, that's the only part I'm involved in, because the technical stuff, I couldn't tell you if they're good or bad.
So talk me through that.
So what we generally do is I will start the interviews with the appropriate resources in the room, usually the immediate supervisor of the position we're going to employ, and what we call the lead within that type of work, or the operations manager now. We have a set of questions, and they've been developed by myself through some work you did 18 years ago, where we start bringing in the behaviours and traits questions and get them to start problem solving and talking about crisis resolution and, how do you manage up? Because managing up is harder than managing down.
Yeah, isn't it?
So we brought those questions into the interview process. With the help of the owners, it was actions that the owners took on board to, continually develop, and we only redesigned them last year again. And so I will sit within the team on occasion and go, okay, I want to know about this person. So on a recent recruit that we added to the team, Julia had probably about 45 minutes or an hour on the technical side of things, a little bit of behaviours and traits, and they said, Stephen, you like coming to the interview? And I met Julia, and we spoke for the next 10 minutes about her family and about where she lives and what her beliefs were and what she valued, particularly from an employer. And I gave it a massive tick straight away because she shared those values that we all shared as a business. And I always end the conversation, funnily enough, what you need to go away is consider who we are, and I'll give you the contact details of any employee you nominate on our website, and I'll give you their contact details to contact them and ask them why they are here. And I want you to make the decision and let me know if you're interested in a job here. It won't be the other way around. And that reverse psychology for me is important because we've already created buy-in for them. And she's been a member of the team since September. She left a very, probably 2 or 3 times our size, big projects, interesting projects, to join us, which was, don't know why. I haven't had that coffee chat with her yet. I've let her settle in. But I figure it's because we were accommodating to her needs, particularly around her family circumstances, which was, what we do.
It's interesting what can happen when you take the time to understand what's going on in a person's life and why things are important to them.
Yep. It was interesting. Before I come to this podcast, I had 3 of the staff text me to wish me well in the podcast because they knew I was doing it. My wife also rang me, I might add, at 10:30. And the interesting thing is that means that people listen to me, not just the other way around. And so when Kayla, we're at the moment we're moving building in 4 weeks' time, we've got too many people jammed in where we are, and we're sharing desks basically. So working a lot from home. When Kayla walks in, I know how she has a coffee And she has a very peculiar way of having her coffee. And she said, I can't believe you remember that. And I said, I only had to watch it once. But I remember because I care. And I want you to remember mine. So if you happen to make mine, which I'll never ask someone to do something I wouldn't do for them, then I know it'll be the way I like it. And that's how you build team. The team is more than just recruit them on day one. It's induct them properly. It's encourage and support them. Show them how to go about their job and be successful. Not don't show them and let them fail. Train them on stuff that they want to do. And I think I go back a while, but there was one employee who wanted to talk mainly, learn more about nutrition because she felt that in herself that she was struggling with being healthy. And it's one of my 5 rocks. So I said to her, what do you want to do? And she goes, I want to do a nutrition course. I said, great, we'll pay for it. And it's going to have no benefit, direct benefit to the company, but what she didn't realise, it was going to have a benefit to the company because she's happier and healthier. I guarantee she'll be a loyal employee and she'll work more diligently. And that's just a net benefit. But letting people do what they want. We sponsor 10 of our employees are seriously into riding. Few of them compete in triathlons. Alberto Piccini, who competed the half Ironman down at Busselton a couple of times, he wrote up a strategy paper and presented it to the board of how he was going to achieve this over 18 months and do his first half Ironman. And he wrote a paper and released it on LinkedIn because it was such a good strategy, and he achieved it. And I was standing right there in Busselton watching him get across that line, and it was important that, and we just drove down for the day. When he finished, we drove back. Busselton was mad that day with so many people. But that just shows that support. And the year after I couldn't make it, I know 2 of his team went down and supported him. And so we now have got the MAD3 racing kit. And let me tell you, they're not cheap. And they've got the MAD3 socks, they've got the MAD3 Lycra bottoms and tops. And it's so good that one of the guys went to the Tour de France last year, and he was on the top of the mountain, the highest part, 50-metre line in his MAD3 outfit because he'd ridden up the hill in the morning when they were coming up in the afternoon. As the cyclists were going past the winning cyclists, there he was in his MAD3. And you can't buy how proud he is of that uniform, but also that he got something for free and that we supported him. And I think that's how you build a team culture. Great bloke. And, yeah, we'd do anything for us.
So I'm going to step back a little bit.
Yep.
So you filter people through a behavioural lens to start with.
Yep.
I'd call it values matching.
Yep.
I always say if you want to influence somebody to change how they think about something, you've got to change their beliefs. And that can be challenging.
That's very difficult.
So that's why I check. How do you feel about it? What's your view on the world? What's your view in family? What's your view in these things? To try and assess for myself, are your values in alignment with our values? Because if they're not, it might be really hard to change your mind. And is it worth the effort?
I can tell you if I've got a say in the hire, and I do, they will not be hired. I think the hardest thing to change is what's in your core, what your beliefs are. And I don't know if I should say this online, but I Facebook stalk them. I want to see what their posts are. I want to see what they like. I want to see, before I get to that interview, to see do they use racial, I like this racial term, or I like this thing that isn't funny, and it's actually very sad that they've watched that sort of stuff and reposted it. So I look at that stuff as an important thing before I even do the 5-minute catch up with their ex-employee and say, should I interview them? Because that's a really important part of the process. So I've already done all that background check, and I generally know there's a lot of people who don't have social media, I might add. And it's hard to do that, but I'll do that at the interview stage. But I'm pretty sure I'm 100%. If they do not align with their values, I've never said hire that person. And in fact, I'll take that back. We did hire one person when I said don't, and they didn't last 6 months. So it's disappointing when you go off capability rather than values, because if they don't align to who you are and what you do, it's very hard to push them in that direction. I'm not saying you can't modify your behaviour, but you can't change your core.
Yeah, well, not easily anyway. Well, we can only influence. We can't change.
That's our
them.
job, is influence, not change.
And we can't.
No.
Only the other person can change themselves.
Correct.
Right? And I do think of it in these terms as we are leaders in our organisation. If we allow the hire of a person who doesn't have the same values and beliefs, they could be great and highly skilled, but it affects the whole team. One of our responsibilities is to protect the business and our good people. And if you get one person who is misaligned, at some point, aside from the rub, which people don't enjoy, that changes the vibe.
Yeah.
Which is a big deal, actually, because that changes enjoyment, productivity goes down.
Yeah.
The other thing that I've observed tends to happen is at some point, the good people in our business start having to pick up work from this other person.
There's worse than that. They leave.
Well, that's
a result of...
Yeah.
I listened to Jack Daly, and Jack Daly said, hire slow, fire fast, because cancer spreads. Yep. And if you've got one negative person sitting on the floor with 20 people around him, it spreads so fast. And people that you had as loyal employees, all of a sudden they're taking interviews, because good people get poached. Good people are out in the marketplace delivering a quality product, and they get poached. And some turnover is healthy turnover, because you're bringing in new IP that could be a different way of doing stuff. And I'm not the person who says you should have zero for life. That's just crazy, because you've got to have some form of IP turnover, because if you don't, there's a government organisation I won't name, but they seem to have everyone was there 40 years ago still making decisions, and it's hard for them to move to the times of what yet this next generation is doing. And I remember when we did our fibre reinforced polymer for Rio Dampier Salt for their jetty, the amount of testing we had to show Rio that this works, this stuff works, guys. And through UWA, they helped us, and we thank them very much for that. They installed it, and it's so much better than what had been done traditionally at ports, which is normally the columns and the rest of it is concrete and steel, and there's timber on top, and it rots. Yep. Seawater doesn't do good things to those things. FRP is built for that environment, really, and I believe it's still there, and I believe it's been fantastic, and they're looking at another jetty to replace. So that government department really pushed back on that move to that, and we went and presented to them, and my understanding they've done it on some pedestrian bridges, but that's about it. And there's more use for it. So I think the next generation, if they share that, how do you say it? They're wiser than we are. I won't say they're smarter, they're wiser than we are. They want to use AI, they want to use the latest software, but they want to use new material. They want to use, why are we doing it this way? Why are we using steel? Why can't we use this material?
Great questions.
Yeah. And I mean, you only got to look now in the land development space. If you've got retainer walls on your property, go and buy the limestone blocks that we always bought. They're so expensive. So we were talking, how could you get around that using a limestone? What other material could be used? How can we go about doing retainer walls in a completely different way? Mm-hmm. But to do that, you've got to get government regulations to change, where, particular councils want to see particular things, or government agencies. I'm not the expert in that, but the reality is there is bureaucracy in government and at all levels, particularly around the land developer. I'd hate to be a land developer. The amount of money it costs you to get a lot up nowadays in comparison to, say, even 15 years ago, even 20 years ago, when just before I started, it's, threefold price difference or per lot. So I wouldn't like to be a property developer.
No.
I invest with them, ones who make good margin, but it's a tough gig to get a good return.
All right, so back on teams.
Yep.
Back on teams. So we hire for fit
Culture
of values and
values,
culture.
yeah.
So, okay, that works. Somebody comes in, does the technical stuff to say, actually, do you have the skills to do what you're going to do?
They are tested on the technical as well, yeah.
So let's say, okay, you decide, yep, Dylan's great, hire Dylan. What happens next? How do you go about cementing this person in?
Well, first one is, on day one they walk in, they are greeted by myself, the operations manager, or their lead, having the shirt available for them, making sure they've got their laptop and make sure they've got their desk assigned, making sure that day one they do the full induction, which is show them through the system, including our safety, which is paramount. Give them that first week to bed themselves in working within the team environment and understand their role within the business, so the org structure is explained and the roles and tasks, responsibilities, permissions, authorities. Rule number one is we never put two new people together on a project because you need someone experienced teaching the other person. Rule number two is we never ask them for more than 20% of their time billable in the first month, and getting them up to, a decent billable time, which is around 80 to 85%, doesn't happen for 6 to 12 months, and we allow for that.
And you need to make sure you've got that in your working capital,
Yes.
which a lot of people forget.
Yeah.
You're going to hire this person, and in their heads, I've talked to lots of business owners, they think, oh, we'll be right in 2 months, I'll be making this amount.
Yeah, they don't. I don't care if you've got
doesn't.
10 years experience, it doesn't happen that fast.
Yeah.
So then we do the 1 month review, then we do the 2 month review. In our business, we have quarterly conversations. So you talk to the team lead within your team to say how you're performing. And it's not a surprise. They talk about that on their weekly workloads. So it's not like all of a sudden you're going to find out I'm doing terribly.
Because you already know.
Yeah, you already know. You've already had those conversations. You've already looked for ways to tweak outcomes and give them the training they need and support. The last thing we want to do is walk someone out the door because they can't follow the system or can't do their job. So the most important thing, and it's a famous saying, if we train them and they leave, we lose all that money. But the worst one is if you don't train them and they stay, how much money you're losing. And for us, we invest a lot of capital, a lot of cash into training, where it's up to 2% of payroll per annum, which is above, in my view, above any business I've ever been involved with. I think at Chubb, if they spent 0.2%, I'd be surprised. Even though I did get a lot of training, I have to say that. But yeah, I think the training's important. So we make them, the weekly target and the second week target and the third week, and there's a lot of check-ins from everyone else. They've got to buy cake in the first week, and it's to my approval. It's in a cake rules, because engineers like rules. And it's a cake, a tart, pastry, or alternative healthy option.
So does that depend upon what you just feel like on that week?
They just cannot buy Black Forest cake. That's a rule. I really do not like Black Forest cake. Don't like tiramisu too much either. But we have 2 birthdays this week. One was 2 days ago with my son, his same day, and he bought in Black Forest just to stir me up. But then I gave him the penalty that you got 1 week to give me an alternative because I didn't approve it. But everyone ate it anyway. So I get them to bring a cake on their first, within their first 5 days. Everyone buys it. And it's funny, you see some people making stuff, some people going to Woolies, some people going to, we had one person who brought in 2 trays of sushi and two trays of sandwich before Costco was around. Where do they get this money? It cost them $200. We had someone else bring in $2, $3 cakes from Woolworths. And it's great. I love it because we then get together as a group. So the whole company comes together and celebrate them joining the business. The next monthly stand-up, so we have all staff the second Monday of every month get together. They have to we welcome to the team. They have to give us a 1-minute elevator speech about them. And it's really good way of them being part of the team, people get to know them a little bit better. And yeah, so then we do the 3 months check-in and they get their letter and say, I'm now a full-time employee with no probation period. Or I don't think I've signed one off, I've signed one off, the probation period for another 3 months. So that's a way of indoctrinating them in a calm way and make them feel like part of the team. Yeah.
What is your people philosophy in terms of saying this is how I choose to look after and respect my people?
I train them the way I would want to be trained. That I'm not scared of being made redundant because my people are better than me. In fact, I endorse it. And every position within the company is encouraged to do exactly the same. So how do I do it? Making sure they receive all the training they can get to make them more competent at their job, and make sure that at no point they forget the importance of the team.
How do you do that?
Being on the ground and actually talking to them. It was interesting, someone said, do you know you affect productivity around here? I said, why is that? And they said, because you just love a chat. I do. My wife, on our first day, says, I'm a really good listener.
Well, is she saying that about herself or about you?
About herself, and saying, and it's because we're going to really work because you're a really good talker. And I get that same feel at work, and it's really to get to understand them better and what their drivers are and how I can help them do what they do. And we have a really flexible workforce where even when we move to the new building, we are going to still have people working 1 or 2 days a week at home or at different locations. So we got, I'm going to guess here, out of 30-odd people, I'd say at least 5 people work from our sister company in Italy at their office. One's worked from our sister company in South Africa. Both those locations have worked from our office. I am one of those people, and I know that one of our staff members worked from just about any Asian destination that he went for a holiday for 2 weeks, but really a working holiday, and he kept working. And I think having that flexibility of, for myself, I start at 6:30. If I finish at 2:30 to 3:30, I've still done my full day. I still go home, I log on later on at night, and I do other bits. But Friday, don't try and get me after 1 o'clock because I'm done. And if there's stuff that I need to do, of course I'll do it. And I'll work on Saturday, it doesn't worry me. But my 1 o'clock is I take the dog for a walk, a bit hot at the moment during the day. I spend some time with the dog. I cook a really nice dinner for my wife.
Nice.
So she gets home 20 past, she gets a glass of wine, we go and jump in the pool at the moment, which is great. And dinner, she don't have to worry about doing any of that stuff. I make sure I get the washing done so I don't have to worry about it on the weekend. And that's what I encourage and support the team to do. And in fact, the godfather of 2 of my staff's children went to Sophia's first birthday a month and a half ago, which was fantastic. And they're sort of the privileges you get for being encouraging and supporting and nurturing in what they do and how they go about it.
So they're all, we talked about fit, so you go, okay, you're a good fit for our people and how we do what we do. You train them, you support them. Where does the accountability sit? Because it's great to say, oh, you're great, I love you, I'm going to help you, I'll pay for your course, I'll do all these things. The company still needs to make a return and you need to deliver. So how do you go about doing that so people don't take the piss?
I think we all remember February 2020 and the next 4 months of being in isolation and lockdown. And there was a genuine fear before February 2020, people work from home was not going to work. And I was completely the opposite. I said, let them work from home, because if you're in your own space and your workload drops, because you can tell by the billable hours they do and the output, what we found was there was a 20% increase in output during the COVID period. And that was it. All the people that were a bit concerned about what that was going to look like, working from home so much, all the fears went out the door. So how do I do it? Everyone's still held accountable for their billable time. But I encourage and support them to do their 5 rocks, is to really understand that if you do those 5 rocks, what's important in your life, all the other things come as a benefit. And I cannot stress enough in business that most leaders fail to lead because they forget the 5 rocks.
What are the 5 rocks?
Health, making sure you have your health looked after, because without health, you can't have love.
You can't have anything, really, can you?
Yeah, you can't have
it's
anything.
It's a foundation.
You can't love yourself. You can't love thy neighbour. You can't love the people you work with, the people you live with, the people you choose to be friends. Got to have a network. Your network is the most important thing for me to de-stress, to debunk, to encourage and support other dreams that you have. Because for me, I love to travel, so having friends forces me to travel more. Having your family is really, whether that's, I lived in WA with my 2 sons and raised them for 5 years by myself. And now I have an extended family with my wife and her 2 children, and now our first grandchild. And now that family is growing, but they still come around every second Sunday for dinner. One's in Craft, it makes it a bit hard, but she was only down a couple of weeks ago. So again, that one. And the other one is have a purpose. Unfortunately, my cousin took her own life about 8 weeks ago, and she went through a really hard phase in her life. We've had I've had a lot of rugby friends. I played rugby until I was 50 in the veteran game. And, we've had people, not in our team, but in other teams, who've taken their own life. And it's when you can't look in the mirror. And I recently read an article on Monday. An engineer went missing in Melville. They found him 3 months later in Jarrahdale. And his daughter was really strong, and she came out and said, I have to say that my dad didn't see himself as worthy. And I don't want anyone else to feel that way. That's why I want you to share this. And I'm a great believer in, you need to feel that love for yourself, and you need to have a purpose in life. Because you don't have that too, that's where your mental health really struggles. And that we really support that. We have a employee wellbeing program, and it's all online. It's at their time. There's no targets. We want 50% take up. We want 30%. We want 100%. It gives them things like Pilates and yoga to do at home, healthy eating, sleeping, improving your sleeping, and all the things that help you be healthier, both from a physical point of view and, more importantly, a mental point of view, because that's the number one driver at the moment for workers' comp.
Yep.
And I'm touching the table, the wood. We've never had a workers' comp claim, and we've been going since 1982. And that's because we don't do that high-risk stuff, but, professionals get injured. We really do care about our employees, and we care about the way in which they go about their job. We risk assess everything we do because we're engineers, and that includes going to site and what the dangers of that are. And mental, we have an occupational health and safety committee, which surprised me in a firm of this size, and I'm blessed to be part of that and see how passionate the other employees are. And mental health is our number one subject each and every meeting we have. And it's brought up on the occupational health and safety slide in relation to our monthly stand-up. And we have those check-ins to talk about how they're feeling. Their feelings are important to us.
Yeah, and it has a direct impact on productivity if you want to take the economics there.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question outside of MAD3 or even McDowell Affleck. And I've got a counter view. So it's a how question, because you also have business experience.
Yeah.
I think it's fairly easy to be able to understand and quantify productivity if you're billing, you do hourly billings, because it's right in your face.
Yeah.
If half the crew are working at home and billings are up, you guys are working your asses off, all good, productivity's up. If you don't do it by hourly billings, like in our business, no hope. How long's a piece of string?
Mm-hmm.
And many businesses are like that. It's not that easy. It's a little more opaque. How would you think about keeping people accountable for outcomes? It's much harder to take the piss if it's hourly billings because, dude, there's a spreadsheet that's right there.
How do I hold them accountable?
Yeah, how would you?
I haven't had to because we have that very simple metric and a lot of our jobs are lump sum, so it's not hourly rates, but we have hours allocated to those tasks. There's some criteria within our business that is, I'm going to say, not measured well. Previously, it was probably better, but it was more spreadsheet driven. It was very difficult to track. But I know it was very well tracked when I was with Chubb, for example. At Chubb, we were lucky to win 1 in 10 quotes. Within these businesses that have merged and now MAD3, we win 50%. Of the ones we do quotes to repeat clients, the success rate is through the roof. It's well over 70%. I'm going to probably annoy some of the other people in the business and say it's probably close to 80 or 90 because they're repeat buyers for a reason. Our referrals is ridiculous. The amount of clients, and we do ask the question, if you're happy with us, who else can you refer us to? And we got a call the other day from a client who said, a potential client said, can you guys do this? So-and-so referred us to you. We refer trusted partners to our clients. And that referral generates that. But realistically, how do I hold them accountable? It is billable rate. It is the billable time. It is the outcome is the revenue, not the sale. And then for the people in the business tasked with the marketing thing, that's where sales comes in. And what we try and do is make sure that as a team, all in one team, we have our revenue set at this bar. And it doesn't matter that you're down this month and he's up. To me, more important is how did the team perform? Because I was in a business previously for 16 years. You were only judged on your performance, and it was horrible. It created a Jack Daly moment, which I don't agree with, is fire the lowest 20% sales performers and rehire the same numbers and get people hungry. I don't like that mentality. Things go on in people's lives that are really important to them, and you've got to continue to support them. But I take your point. Where does that line drawn? It's drawn when that continues. And it's the old thing. You can make a mistake, but don't make it again. So if you continue to perform that way, we'll manage you.
Yeah.
So they are managed. It's not a kindergarten. We don't give them paint and an easel and they use their fingers and just draw all day. They do their job.
Because people are people. So in our business, as an example, because we don't do, it'd be frightening if we went to billable hours.
Yeah.
We tend to look, same as you, it's a team metric.
Yeah.
How are we doing as a team? And, gee, Stephen, if you've got some spare hours in the day, have a look around, see who else needs help and pitch in.
That's one of our questions to find out their values at interview. If you had nothing to do today, what would you do? At interview. And we're looking for 3 things. We're looking for them to do training. I'd look up a standard that I was still learning and find out a little bit about it. But before I do that, I'll go and talk to the team lead and see if I can help out with anyone else to deliver a project. And then I'll go and talk to the other team leads in the business, because we're multi-skilled, where I can help them. So I think at the end of the day, we start that process at interview. So they've already got that thinking. If they don't have that thinking, that's cross.
Yeah. So we do a similar thing, but what we do is game plan. And so operationally, because I go, macro is all great, but the action happens micro. That's why I agree. Walk the floor. When I was CEO of a couple of companies, always walk the floor, know
And
the
pat
people,
them on the back.
and talk to them.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you learn.
Yeah.
About them and about the business that you didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know they did that on site. How does that work? And then the pennies start to drop. You go, yeah, that's a bit shit. Maybe we can do something about that. I digress. At a micro level, if I ask my team, what's your game plan for the day? That allows me to easily assess, have you got your priorities right? How well are you organised? And I know if you do those things and you're having the right conversations with the right people, productivity comes. Because we can't measure billable hours. But we know, everyone in the business, anybody who owns a business understands what you need to do to drive a profit. Not revenue. I always say to people, I don't care what your revenue is. Who cares? How much money you're making? Because it's cash in the bank. It's cash is king, right? So I know that if my people are doing X, Y, and Z, then we're going to be fine. And I ask them, is there anything you need my help on? Or is there anything you're struggling with? And there are opportunities then for us to go out. We can pitch in and help you with that. Like, yeah, dude, don't even worry about that. Have a think of it this way.
Yeah.
And just free them up so they don't get overwhelmed and anxious, and then they're clear to go and do what they need to do.
I think there's so much to unpack on what you just said, but the reality is that I trust the employees to do the right thing. I don't micromanage. I will say that. A lot of staff have, at the exit interview, where I've helped them out of the business because there's bigger and better things for them, have said, and they heap of them come to our 40-year reunion with our clients, and I said, I would not have got the operations manager over here or the principal at this real estate agent or this role at this plumbing mob had it not been for you encouraging, supporting me, but most importantly, let me make decisions, and sometimes getting it wrong. And I know what the outcome needs to be, and when the outcome isn't there for 1 month I'm on it, it doesn't have to get to 2 months. So I've got a really competent team that does their jobs and do it really well, and I don't really have to get involved in the nitty-gritty. Look, in the engineering space, it's a bit of a different beast than the old security game that I used to be in. It's the number one thing is you don't want a PI claim.
Yep.
The number two thing is if you spent some extra money to make sure it's right and didn't make much money that month, that's okay, but profit's the next one. Again, not so much the revenue, but the net profit. In our business, we talk about gross profit because that's really the only thing that employees can help with.
Yeah, correct.
And probably number three, and even though it's probably it is the most important, make sure every single person goes home from work every day uninjured. And there's there's so many facets within a business, but I know for myself as an employee of 16 years within Chubb, no one ever checked on me when I went to all the horrible scenes I had to on the railways and supported my staff. And not once did I get, are you okay? Mm-hmm. And I make it my mission in life to make sure I check in with my staff saying, are you okay? And that could be from having a bad weekend because something happened. And there's been a lot of that, unfortunately, within any business or any relationship you have those.
You do.
So the check-in is the most important thing you do every week. And it's sat over a coffee, walking down the shop together, sitting down and breaking bread. I play cards with the boys once or twice a week, 20 minutes. We play this version of 500, which one of the rules is never take advice from Stephen. He's the worst card player ever. And it's good that we leave the titles upstairs. I will not let anyone call me boss. At the end of the day, my name's Stephen, and I'll use your name. I will not use your title. And because the titles, a lot of people get hung up on it. I remember going to one of the Australia-Israeli Commerce joint lunch, and there was a speaker and he was sitting at our table, and he took a phone call from his wife and walked outside, and I was happening to go walking past, and he goes, "It's so embarrassing when you're the most important person in the room." That's what he said to his wife. I was like, "You're a tosser." And that's the sort of lessons learned that I don't want to be, and I don't want my staff to be that. Don't be that arrogant. Be yourself.
Well, we're all people, right?
Yeah.
Just we have different level of responsibility.
Yeah. Just don't be arrogant.
Yeah.
You know better than the next person. And I wasn't a great rugby player, but I loved playing. I wasn't a great basketball coach, but I loved coaching and got involved with so many. I did my wheelchair basketball assistant coach for the WA girls, and when we won the national title, it was one of the greatest achievements in my life. I'm the only person in my family ever to finish a university degree. I did my MBA, and unfortunately I graduated in 2020 and I couldn't actually walk across the stage and flick my thing over, and that was probably one of the biggest disappointments in my life, having finished my MBA. And I remember the support and encouragement I got from most people at work, but I also got a kick in the pants when I needed it. Was and I'll call him out, Michael. He said, "But you can't write for shit. You're going to struggle on this course." He knew that would motivate me. And my first unit, I got distinction, and I made sure I showed him it. And he goes, "Well, keep going." And at the end, when I got my MBA, he was one of the people that really celebrated with me, to say, "Well done." And unfortunately, we were in lockdown at that stage, and I never got to walk across the stage. So, but I got set my thing. But not that my MBA was the most important thing on that day. I actually got there was about 450 of us started the MBA together, and I worked 40 hours a week, 40 plus, as I usually do, and I did my MBA in between. I only ever took Fridays off, so I worked condensed days Monday to Thursday, and if I needed to, Saturday. And I did a lot of online thing. I never missed one online lesson, where a lot of people did. But I got awarded the class, I think they called it the class contributor, that helped other people through the course by all the participants, the 430 people, along with two of my friends who, in WA, Kurt and Kate, who we got together at Dome, and we did every Monday night. We had wedges and sour cream and a coffee, and we sat there for 3 hours, and thank you, Dome Maylands, for your support. And they gave us a room, and they really helped us, didn't charge us anything for it. And without that, we would never got through it. But the three of us got that award jointly. Nice. Because although we did different units, we focused together to keep us on track. And, that's a great reward. And again, that's the selflessness of the team. What was I going to get at doing an MBA when I was that old? Like, I was already the CEO, I was the GM at that stage. Was I going to get promoted? No. But the company believed in me and backed me, and it cost them a lot of money. But I did it to show others you can do it. And I'm proud that I've achieved it, but I couldn't have achieved it without the support of the company, both financially and time-wise. And again, those 5 rocks, my family and my friends. Because when I didn't want to do that Unit 9, I was struggling at that stage. It was those 2 people I did my study group with on a Monday, my now wife, and some friends kicking me in the butt saying, "This is the one, and you should aim for a HD. Don't go for the mediocre level. Get over 60%. Only got that in one. All the rest I was in that 70 to 80 and a couple of 85s, including my last unit. But yeah, that was the best thing. And the best thing about it is I wrote my thesis, my end paper, on employee engagement. And that was, to me, doing that research and crystallising what we've talked about today is how do you encourage and support a team, and how do you stop them leaving, and what's the real cost? It was easy. It was really, really easy.
You've lived it.
Yeah, and I've done it twice in my life with Chubb, where I took over a team in Canberra that their safety record was horrendous, injuries are horrendous, The staff turnover was over 30%. They weren't making a lot of money. And I was only there 18 months before I wanted to come back to Perth because it's really cold Canberra. And it turned to completely 180. We were making, on percentage, one of the highest percentages in Australia. Our safety record was second to none. And we had addressed our staff turnover because I got me and the team to go out and see the staff, not just during the day. They work at night. Security work at night. It was a thankless job. But we went out and seen them. We actually showed them we cared. And I think that's what I've done both at Chubb and now at MAD3 is people know I actually care. Like, when they're feeling sad, I'm feeling sad for them. But I'm also there to support them and encourage them to, celebrate the highs. Don't just be there and think every day it's just the next day. Have a purpose.
Beautiful. I'm going to go back and clarify something for people listening just in case. And it's not something you said, it's something I said. We don't micromanage in our business because the question was based around how do you keep people accountable? And part of what we do is in game planning is, one is, okay, we know you're on the right track because we can't do billable hours. There's no spreadsheet that we could waste our time on that would give us an indication. So we just have to feel it. Yeah, you're right. But it helps. It's very interesting. Keeps us connected with our people. I don't always do it. The team does it. We talk about game planning. Keeps us connected, but gives them an opportunity to say, hey, I actually need help with this. Or how you're thinking about that, because it's very easy in our style of business for someone to get stuck in their own head and not utilise the team to go, there's a problem, or they don't see a problem coming. It's because it's not project-based. It's a different dynamic. I thought I'd share that because for other people listening who don't have businesses where you've got a style of flow that you can easily track productivity, you've got to find other ways to do it. And you do need to keep people accountable.
The metrics in business, unfortunately, if we were a listed company, it's one metrics only that they care about, and that's what is my dividend on my share. But realistic metrics in business should be how happy are your staff? What's your safety record? Have you caused any environmental harm? Are your clients happy and engaged? As I said, 70% of our clients are repeat buyers. It's a great stat. And do we make money? I have to say we don't make money. Most of the time we don't make money. Last year was an exception. But this year we're not making money. 2 years ago we didn't make money. Owners, when we've made money, we've reinvested in the business. And it's, our new building. We're moving there in 4 weeks. There's a golf simulator. Why have we got a golf simulator sitting outside my door on the mezzanine floor? Because people can go and have a whack of a golf ball when they're feeling like they need to. Why have we got 2 quiet rooms? We used to have a sleep pod at our old building, and I used to use it. I love a 20-minute power nap. It reinvigorates me in the middle of the day. So I think the key measures that you're talking about within your business aren't as easy to track as a thing, but if your staff are happy and your clients are happy and you're still making money, that's the only metrics you need to.
Yeah.
And I think it's great.
So I agree with that.
Yeah.
But that's backward looking. And what I don't like in business is to say, yeah, we made money. I like to understand, are we making money? Are the people happy? Are our clients happy?
And then
instead
forward.
so if I ask it today, I go, actually clients aren't happy. What aren't we doing? Correct it today, and by the end of the month, everything's cool. I don't want to get to the end of the month and look back and go,
Yeah, no, we do that. We do that weekly health check. At what we call it an L10 leadership group meeting, 10 o'clock every Monday morning, and we look forward for the next week and say what we need to do to achieve our goals, and then they go and break that off into an operational meetings. I'm not saying that's not important. I think lead indicators are the only thing a company should look at. Never look at a lag indicator.
I agree.
Just because you've had great safety record doesn't mean you're going to have.
Correct.
I mean, 44 years, no injury, doesn't mean today we're not going to have one. It could have happened while I'm in here. But you've got to put the checks and balances in place to ensure that the team has the tool to do their job safely. You give them the skills and the training and the tools to do the job well. And at the end of the day, if you get those two right, the outcome will drive itself. We have people within the business that they don't go need looking for work. It comes to them. And the amount of people who ring up, I won't name drop, but I will say one client we built, they were with us here. We got involved with the North East Link in Victoria. Again, we're a WA-based business. And then they took us into Snowy. And they've been a fantastic client of ours, and they don't quibble about price. They quibble about the right people on the job. And as long as they got their man, Alberto, they're the happiest people in the world. And that man has never worn a suit in his life. And I've got shorts on today. I don't believe in wearing a suit either. And he's known for his red pants that cost him $3. And he's eccentric, but he's one of the most brilliant engineers, business developers. Does he do everything perfect? Absolutely not. But there's others that fill in that gap.
Yeah.
So I think that's how you build a team. Put the right team together. Because one thing I've found with engineers is every single engineer is a different person, and they're all got different traits. And what you need to do is have that person who loves systems and processes, working with a person who's not great at that, but they're great at the fuzzy ideas that come up in the engineering world, that they can problem solve really, really high level very quickly to make the technical guy go off and do that part of it. And they're also, generally, if they're up there, they're great with clients because they talk about the big picture. And then in the background, you need someone who leads a team. So our lead in structural is one of the least experienced, and he's actually been only an engineer for 4 years. He was a mature age student, and he hopefully will be an owner on July 1. And he's leading people who've got 30 years experience, and they listen because he's got the right skills that they don't have. So I think putting that jigsaw together is how you get a good team. They all can't be the same. That's the other thing. Everyone goes, I'd love to get 10 of that person. No, because if you get 10 of them, you need 10 of them and 10 of them.
That's right.
It's a triangle, and clients will say, I love dealing with Alberta, but I love dealing with BG, I love dealing with Ben B, Ben R, or Ben V, or Ben S, because we've got 4 Bens. And the reality is that because each of them have a different strength.
Yeah, they bring something different to the table, and the client benefits.
That's how you make a team work. Recognising that you've got a skill gap. So at the board level, so for a small business, we've got a board, and again, this is team building. We knew that we needed someone with a legal mind rather than a marketing mind. So we engaged in the process of replacing a board member, and we found a legal person who was ideal, I might add, and he's been there for 4 years. And he's helped us look at things completely different. And again, his focus yesterday at the strategy day was about teams and people to match the client needs. And the client was the third one down the line. And that focus had to be around safety, obviously. It had to be around skill sets and capacity, but the different functions each of those people would think. So how are we going to build this thing wider? How are we going to get taller? The mechanism for doing that is cash. We know that. But the reality is that if you don't have a plan, you won't get there. 2016, Jess Diley came to our business, did an assessment, told us we were kidding ourselves we were ever going to grow. We stayed around the same number. He said, you need to change your strategy and do X, Y, and Z. You need to go and hire an expert in that area, but you need to get rid of this. We shrunk the growth, so we went from 7 to 2 in structural. We couldn't even get $500,000 out the door with 7 people. We just got back to 7 people, and we're probably going to bill somewhere between 1.5 and 2 million. So the revenue per person is much higher and much more profitable, therefore. And it was all based on that strategy. And phase 3 was coming up quick in 2024, and they go, oh, we're not going to get there. And a year out, it didn't look likely. Bang, we hit it. We didn't hit our profit again because we invested to get other things across the line. But all the others were almost 99% ticks.
So can I interject for a second?
Yeah.
And then I've got to ask you another, maybe a final question, if I might.
Yeah.
Is it that you didn't have retained profits for a dividend, but the business made a profit, you just chose to reinvest it rather than issue a dividend? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Because a couple of times you said we didn't make a profit.
We didn't make a profit. We made a loss.
Yeah, okay.
And that's because of different circumstances. Mainly it's because we invested in our future. And that's okay, because one thing engineers have got is they're risk averse and they got cash.
So in finance, and the distinction is important, because on paper you can say we ran at a loss. And in finance, I always ask, okay, where did the money go? Well, we reinvested in the business. I'll make up an example. We had a one-off expense, which was $500,000. We know if we did that, the next 3 years are going to be better. I go, well, you take that out because it's a one-off.
That's how you get EBITDA, yeah.
Yeah. So, which is a great distinction for people listening, because it doesn't mean that you didn't make a profit. Yeah, the business operationally made a profit. What we chose to do with that money, on paper, gave us a paper loss.
Sorry, I can't say that was our circumstance. We actually made a loss. And we're making a loss this year because there's been a lot of issues within the environment we operate in. We'll just say it that way.
Yep.
We hope and plan to be at a profit by end of financial year. Last year was super profitable. So all the things we put in place the 2 years before, including the merger, had meant that last year was super profitable. And luckily we had lots of tax credits and stuff, so Mr. ATA didn't get paid too much, which is always a good thing. And we have a great accountant in that space. But it does sometimes it's almost like there's, I think it's Sony or one of the others who don't pay dividends. I can't remember actually. Might be iPhone. The guys on the iPhone. They basically don't pay dividend. What they do is they increase share value. That's what we've had. And have I got more money out of than what I put in? Absolutely. A lot more money. Has my share price increased from what I originally paid? Absolutely. Am I better off for the decisions I made? Yes. Could we have taken more money out and do the old corporate thing and make a good profit each year? Absolutely. But we as owners want the journey to continue for the next generation, so we keep investing. And investments last year were, from 2 years ago, was quite significant. And that's why we made a paper loss, in fairness, for that one. This year it's due to the economy, it's due to circumstances.
So thank you for sharing that. It's really important because not everything in business is rosy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And management's job, in my head, is they're responsible for long-term sustainability of the company, which in turn means long-term sustainability of employment for the staff. So you're actually looking after the business, looking after people.
Yeah.
One of the core disciplines of management, I say, is turning activity into dollars, which doesn't always happen. And your story highlights to me also that you guys are aware of cash, so that when things aren't great, or you go, okay, the economy's going to have a few issues here, this might get a bit rocky. It's all right. We've got the cash to carry us through because we managed well. Mm-hmm. That'd be accurate?
Yeah, and we got a really good bank, ANZ, I'll give them a plug. Yep. Really good relationship manager, keeping them on tap and making sure that you keep them happy. Really, the most important thing you can have in business is good financial backing. Yep. And that's from the owners of being willing to reinvest in the business. That's by your banking institution. The ease in which we access cash is helpful within the business, and any business who make good money. I know businesses have made really good money and the partnerships dissolve and the business has fallen over. And I look at it and go, how can you make that much money and the business not be operating? It's because the relationship broke down. Again, it comes back to people.
Thing. All right, we've got to close out here, Stephen. Before we go, would you give me your top 5 tips for people who are thinking, yeah, I want to build a really good team, or I want to build a better team?
During my MBA, I have to remember get the plugs where they're due. Jack Daly, hire slow, fire fast, number 1. Number 2, hire for behaviours and traits rather than skill. Always make that your number 1 priority. Building a team. 3, don't set individual goals. It's the worst thing you can do in business. Set team goals. Your point, which we do regularly, don't wait for a monthly stand-up to say well done when they actually do a good job, but don't waste that by saying did a good job today, every day, because then they don't value it. And one thing that we haven't covered today, and I still got the letter in a frame on my wall, is I got a handwritten letter from that man, Ken Duncan, thanking me for working that weekend that he came in to help, and it's still in a frame because he wrote it by hand and wrote a note to me. And so my top 5, 5th one is personalise your messaging to your staff. Don't just write them an email or pat them in the back and front of the team because you feel like you have to. Personalise it. Take them out and buy them a coffee and thank them personally. Personalise your message.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing your time and your wisdom.
No
and
worries.
Experience.
When size that was.